What's going on, people? Welcome to a very special video. We've got Cory here for another time, and of course, he's not Palace fan. It's not because of that. It's because we signed another player from Derby. And who else can we speak to other than Cory? And that is, of course, Malcolm Ebiowei, that we signed on free for a 5-year deal. The 18-year-old who joins Palace on the 1st of July. Cory, welcome once again. Sorry, we got another one of your gems, but we got when it's deal that you're happy with. You like Steve Parish, so that's good. Let's start off with where it started with him. So he joined you guys in 2021, but he didn't make his debut till February 2022. So there was a period where he wasn't involved in the first team. So just in regards to that, how did he join you guys? Where from? Was he playing academy football? What was that period like when he first joined you?
Yeah, so I think Malcolm originally started out in the Arsenal Academy and then didn't really kick on, and he was released. And he then went north of the border to Rangers to play under like Steven Gerrard and stuff. And he was in their academy. And academy football is a tough business, right? You one person looks at you one week and they go, yeah, this guy can't cut it. So they cut strings and they end up latching on somewhere else and they take off. And so it's kind of you shaking the tree and you don't really know what you're going to get at that age. So he went from Arsenal to Rangers, spent I think a season at Rangers in the youth system and everything like that, was released. And Derby kind of picked him up in the summer. And, I remember reading his name coming across, like, we signed this guy from Rangers. And I'm like, great, cool, fantastic. We're not really looking at the academy because we were looking at the first team because we had lots of problems with that at the time, to say the least. But, okay, cool. Another person that we're going to add to the 23s. And very much like Luke Plange. I said to you when I was on previously, like the biggest compliment I could pay to Luke Plange was the fact that I didn't know who Luke Plange was. And then all of a sudden he became like a key player, like in a space of a month. And that's just, that's not that Cory says that, but it's like the general fan base that they don't know who he exists. And then all of a sudden he's the main man. And it was very much the same with Malcolm. Like Malcolm came through and he just ticked over in the academy. We had heard that there was this lad and he was doing really well, and Rooney kind of liked him and everything like that. But unfortunately, with the EFL regulations that we were under in the transfer embargo, we couldn't actually play a lot of academy players sooner. Like there was a center half that probably would have started day one for Rooney, Aaron Cashin, but Aaron wasn't able to play until the new year because we had a transfer embargo, which was ridiculous that you have players on your books and you can't even play them until like whatever. Weird. Whatever. So, he couldn't kind of play. So I think he probably would have been in the squad in and around earlier. But when Malcolm did break into the team, you were kind of like, okay, another young lad. Like we were playing we were playing a lot of young players at the time. So you're just kind of like, okay. And you never know what you're going to get, especially with an attacking player, especially with someone who's like a winger, right? Young players are prone to large swings in form. And then especially, for someone who's an attacking player, what am I expecting? I'm expecting goals and assists and to drag us out of a relegation fight. But he came on and I think he made like a 10-minute cameo against, I believe it was Swansea or West Brom. Swansea, I think it was. He did really well. And then he got his first start and he basically just started the rest of the games from then on. And I mean, again, very much like Plange, highest praise is the fact that he went to being a main man, number one, number two name on the team sheet within weeks. I think he was even, if I had to do a team sheet, he would have been higher than Plange to put on my team sheet. Because I think after Plange got the move to you guys, his form really dropped off for us significantly.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a lot of reasons for that, right? There's large periods of form. You've seen this with young players, very much so, especially with attacking players. But Malcolm was fantastic, and I think Malcolm is he's a very direct player. He's very good at dribbling. I think if I've been looking at some statistics here, dribbles per 90 minutes played in the championship, he had 13 and a half dribbles per 90 minutes. When you look at that, that's the highest in the league ahead of players like Josh Bowler or Oriental Hernandez or Neskins Cubano, or even Ivan Caballero, players that had done. Jed Spence was only a 6.3 and Morgan Gibbs-White was a 6.2. So he's double that. So it shows that his progression, I think his dribble success rate, if I'm right, was something like only 48%, but that's still 7 times that he's getting past a player in a 90-minute thing. So that would still beat most of the averages in the championship, especially for a player that only played that second half of the season. It's quite remarkable. He was tremendous. He was unplayable against Blackpool away. We had been relegated the week before. We went down to the seaside and he was incredible. He got a goal and he got an assist. His first professional goal, first goal for Derby, his only goal for Derby. So there's a player in there, there's a talent in there. I think what you would want to see is a little bit more end product from a young. I mean, he's a young player. He's 18 years old, so
Yeah, exactly.
he's obviously going to get better. But I think you guys have just got an absolute gem of a player, an absolute peach of a player there.
So you mentioned just a bit about him and what type of player he is. But of course, when he first joined Palace, we know him as a right winger. But when you actually look into his profile, he has played on left wing and up front, I believe, for maybe the academy for the under 18s for you guys. But did he play in any other position for the first team? Did he play up front, left wing? Do you think he can do that role? Does he have that versatility that he can switch from the right wing to left wing to up front? Like, is he that complete forward that can do lots of different roles?
Yeah, I think for Derby, basically, he kind of just stayed in that position that he was playing on. What was it? The right hand side of midfield.
Yeah.
Like he was normally just playing on that position, and I think maybe that was a little bit towards him being young. Him, he's doing really well. He's in great form. So if it's not broke, why fix it? So I don't think there was. I don't think you can read too much into that because Derby were trying to stay up. They had a player who was playing really well. So why would you try to mess that up or anything like that? But yeah, so I think there is an opportunity for Malcolm to switch wings. I'm a big fan of wingers switching. I mean, if you look at someone like Liverpool, for instance, right? And I'm not comparing Malcolm Ebiowei to Mohamed Salah at all.
You can make us all happy.
That's not a comparison that we're making. But if Salah switches with Mane, they normally stay down those channels, and sometimes it'd be nice if they switch just to give the fullback something different to think about. But then you're also like, well, why switch them? Because they're just dominating in the positions that they're in anyway. So it could be potentially counterintuitive. So, I think there's an option there for him to play out wide. When we talked in January, Luke Plange, I said was a player that could potentially, play down the middle or either wing. And I could see the similar with Malcolm Ebiowei. I don't think really he would be best suited as a main target kind of man forward or kind of a forward, because I know Palace do have players in that option that are going to be better than him, more physical than him, more experienced than him. I think his long-term future would be on the wings, and I think he's a right winger or a left winger. I could even see him playing, kind of as either as a false nine or behind the striker as well, kind of in a deep a central midfield position, central attacking midfield, but basically just behind the striker, like a 4-4-1-1, like that kind of role, kind of floating around in there. But as a big main striker, I don't think that's his future. I think he is a versatile attacker, but not as a big number 9 that you would expect that Palace has had generally over the course of the last several years.
Yeah. So Cory, what are his strengths? You talked about him being able to maybe play on both wings, maybe behind the striker, but you give Malcolm the ball. What can he do best for us?
He can skin people alive. There was an instance, I think he was playing Swansea, and he had an opportunity to just, kind of lay the ball off, and he rolled the ball, megged the guy, was going down the wing, and left the lad no option other than to side him down. So I think, he'll win free kicks. I think he'll do really, really well to just in terms of just dribbling, right? Pace, always having an option. And what's the number one thing? The number one thing that defenders don't like is when you run at him. He will run at you. He will take you on in the box. And we know what happens, D, in the Premier League and in football when you take people on the box. They tend to dangle legs out. People tend to go down. You tend to get penalties, which tend to lead to goals, and that wins you games. So, I think just for him, I mean, it's just his dribbling ability. It's his pace. It's his eye for a goal. It's his eye for movement and things like that. I think I would like to see him obviously get better in front of goal. I'd like to see him create, more goals and assists, more goal involvements is that new term that everyone likes to band around. Because I think he only had like 2 last year, 3 maybe. So I'd like to see him get a bit more involved in that aspect. But again, he's 18. He's still young. He's still learning the game. He's only played a handful of first team games for a team in the championship that was fighting for the lives. So, I think if you ask me a question, strengths, it's dribbling, it's pace, it's movement. And I think it's just a willingness to whatever happens in the game. I think this is a testament to his mentality as well. Whether he's having a good game or a bad game, he doesn't really tend to hide. He wants to get on the ball. He wants the ball. He wants to drive at people. And he'll be more than happy to do that, whether he's having a good game or a bad game. He wants that ball. And that says a lot to me in the mentality of an 18-year-old player to say, you could say, I could easily hide here and get away for 15, 20 minutes because I'm a bit of a stinker, maybe get fetched off and, whatever. But no, he seems to want the ball. He seems to want to get on it, and he wants to seem to drive forward. And, that paid a lot of dividends for Derby last year because he was a very good attacking outlet for us.
Yeah, he seemed like a confident player. He seemed like a confident player the way that you describe him. And of course, I haven't watched every single game from Derby, but from what I hear, like you, from people like you, and also see, he seems like a player that is very direct. Like he likes to take on plays, he likes to use his strength. But of course, we're talking about an 18-year-old. He's not the finished product. And the goal involvement that you just mentioned there about, I think it was 3 goal involvements. I'm not too, I think it's 2 assists, 1 goal that he had
Yeah,
in
that
16
might be right. That
appearances.
sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the main weakness that he needs to improve on? Because once his contract runs out, he's going to be only 23. So he's still not hitting his peak. Like he's got many years ahead of him. But in the next 5 years, do you think him in front of goal, is finishing, is that the main area for him? Or is there anything else that he needs to improve on for him to go and reach that potential that everyone's talking about?
Yeah, I definitely think that that's probably one of the main things that he could work on. I mean, you have to take those 3 goal involvements, the goal and 2 assists, with a grain of salt, because to be honest with you, Derby last year, we've been lacking for goals for 18 months, just to be honest with you. Last year, I don't think we could hit the broadside of a barn with a bazooka. Like it was, Luke Plange chipped in with a couple, and thank God, because we would have been relegated way sooner than that. But I mean, if you look at it, we had like Tom Lawrence, he had I think he had like 11 or 12 goals. And then our next score was like Plange with like 5. So we had such a significant drop off in terms of the numbers. And so when you're not scoring goals and you're not creating opportunities for players, it's going to be really hard to get those goals assists up, right? I mean, we could probably sit here and I might be forgetting 6 chances that Malcolm put across the 6-yard box into an open net, and the guy just didn't finish them off. But at the end of the day, the stats tell you otherwise, right? Not in terms of if it didn't go back, it didn't go in, he didn't get an assist. So I think that is a main token, because we know that it's in his locker. We know that he's got the ability to cut in and shoot. He likes doing that. And I think when he plays with better quality players at Crystal Palace in the Premier League, with a lot of different movement and different, experienced players doing their thing, I think that those numbers will increase. And like you say, after he's got a 5-year deal at Palace, tremendous for him. He's going to be 23 when he finishes. So he's still got his best years ahead of him. He's not even going to be hitting his prime for another 2 or 3 years. So, I think that's probably the biggest thing for Malcolm. I mean, when you look at defensively for a winger, could you always get better? Yes. Does he need to get, can he press more? Can he work back? Yeah, everybody can. He's 18 years old. So you would expect him to improve that side of the game. But again, for me, if I'm looking at a winger that wants to go out, that I have in the game, it's like Wilfred Zaha, right? What's Wilfred Zaha in there to do? He's not in the team to defend. Wilfred Zaha is in there to create, win free kicks, and score you goals to win you games. And if he doesn't defend, who cares? Like, it's a bonus if Wilf wants to come back and do it. And it's the same with Malcolm. Like, he works hard, he tracks back, he tries to get a tackle in and things like that. But if that side of his game doesn't develop anymore, and he just becomes, obviously, to become like a world-class player, you'd have to do that. But to become a very solid, serviceable player for Crystal Palace, if he can increase his goal involvements and become a real kind of like incredible player like that, then they're going to have a real special player on their hands, because he's got buckets and buckets of talent. He's got everything you would want from a young winger.
Look, you got high praises for him, but I have to ask the question: is he ready for Premier League football, in your opinion? He's only played 16 appearances. He's only made 16 appearances last season, so the sample size isn't that big. But what do you think, Cory? Do you think he can straight away get involved in Premier League football?
I think he would be better off. I think him and Luke Plange would be better off coming back to Derby next season on loan. That would be ideal. Thank you, Steve Parrish, please.
I think it'd be that nice.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, because my initial answer would be no, because I like my players to be a little bit more seasoned. You have players in that position, right? You've got Wilfred Zaha, you've got Jordan Ayew. I know up top you've got Benteke, you've got Mateta. That's up there, as well as Osman Edouard as well. So you've got players in the attacking things. And then I think about who would come after Jordan Ayew, and that's Michael Elise. And I'm like, well, he's not in Michael Elise's class. But then again, when Michael Elise was at Reading, it's not like Michael Elise was good, but I don't think you'd watch him at Reading and be like, he's a Premier League player in waiting. And now all of a sudden he's Palace's number 7, and they bring him on late on when they're chasing the game, and he looks all right. So it's difficult to judge, really. My initial reactions would say no, but I think he's in a right situation at Palace, very much like Plange's, because you guys give opportunities to young players. Look at Tyreek Mitchell. He was like a no-name player that came through that usurped Joel Ward, and now he's an England international. And he's a solid Premier League fullback, like solid. And I think, I think that he's in a right situation to develop at Palace. I think he will do better with better players around him, as players tend to do. I mean, if they put me and you in Manchester City's midfield, we'd be looking good. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way it would be, because, you're playing with better players and they can hide a lot of your faults or your things that your weaknesses and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I think he'll get better. Is he ready day one? Probably not. Would I expect him to? Because I was thinking about this, right? I was thinking in preparation for talking to you. I was thinking about it today, and I thought, if he gets 10 appearances in the second half of the season, I would be very happy with that. Like 10 first team appearances in the second half of the season. I think he would take some. Don't sit here and think he's the grand messiah coming down that's going to save everybody and hit Palace to the heights of Champions League football. Give the lad some time, give the lad some opportunity to grow, to develop. He's back in London where he had started with Arsenal. So he was born in the Netherlands, so he can actually represent 3 countries: Netherlands, England, and Nigeria, I believe it is.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he's played for the Netherlands and he's played for England, and then he was going to play for Nigeria, but they said, concentrate on your club career. So he's like, okay, I'll do that. But yeah, so he's back. He's kind of back in a kind of a comfortable environment in London. And I would just sit there and I would just expect him to get some game time. I would expect to see him on the bench a little bit, maybe thrown in for a few games early in the season as teams are still readjusting. I would then anticipate him to disappear for a while and then probably reemerge a much better player in the second half of the season. I think is where you're going to really look to have him make an impact. I mean, it's tough for a player who's playing in the Championship. Like you said, he's played 16 games to then come and be playing for a team with expectations like Crystal Palace of being in the top 10 in the Premier League. I wouldn't anticipate him starting any games. I would probably anticipate him coming off the bench late. Those odd appearances. Probably he's going to play in the Cups.
Yeah.
I would expect he'll probably be on the bench, maybe make a couple Carabao Cup appearances or,
It'd be like a cup player, squad player. He wouldn't be like a regular first team starter.
Yeah, so I think he'd be one of those guys. But I think if it was me and we were talking a year from now, because obviously we'll have given you another great young player, because that tends to be what we're doing for now. But we get to hang out, so that's okay. I'm all for it.
Exactly.
But I think if we sit here and you say, Cory, he's played 10 games, he's played 300 odd minutes, he's looked okay, I would be pretty happy with that. I would go, you know what, that seems like that's a legitimate thing for him. But don't expect him to come in here and have the impact of like Eze. When Eze came in, he's not an Eze type player. Eze was already a polished diamond, just waiting there to be grabbed, which Palace luckily did. And Elise was pretty good, but I think the comparison to Elise is a decent one, because Elise, when he was at Reading and he went to Palace, I was like, this guy's never going to play at Palace. Like, this guy is nowhere near Crystal Palace quality. And then I watch him and I'm like, yeah, he is. Yeah, he's pretty good on quality. So I think, Malcolm obviously is a little younger than Michael Elise. Elise had like another season or so at Reading than him. So I would anticipate him to play in the first team. I would anticipate him to have some good moments, but he'll have some learning moments as well. So I would anticipate maybe 10 appearances for him over the next season at Palace would be pretty good in my estimation.
Yeah. Look, thank you for coming on, Cory. Make sure to check out the Rams Review podcast. And also, you've got a blog. Am I correct in saying that about our new signing? Where can they read that?
Yeah, so they can read that. I'll send that to you so you can put it on your profile and anything like that if you want to. But it's on our website,
in the comment section.
Yeah, which is the Rams Review podcast. Just Google that, because it's a really long URL. It's on our Twitter page as well. But our blogger Jack Bryan did a great job breaking down Malcolm and how important he was to Derby and everything like that. But I love talking to you. Hopefully next time we can actually get, like, first thing, Steve Parish has been fantastic in all this, because Palace are not allowing this to go to a tribunal. They actually want to pay a fee to Derby, which is admirable, because a lot of teams could take Derby to the cleaners in this. So massive respect for Steve Parish and the way you guys do your business. But D, it's always great to catch up with you. I hope next time we actually get to talk about something other than us giving you a player, like maybe a cup tie, or we're both in the Premier League or something like that. That would be great. But D, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. And thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Cory. You're always a pleasure, as you said, to talk to you. We'll probably talk to you in another 6 months' time for another gem that we got. but that's it from us today. Make sure to check out the Rams Review podcast and also the blog to get to know a bit more about our new signing. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new here to not miss out on future content. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to Cory for joining us. And until next time, up the Palace.